not to leave?
Yeah.
What's the...
Well, I mean, I'm a Memphian. I hear the concerns. I know that people are frustrated with crime and they're exhausted with so the negative news stories that we see and the incidents. And so I want to ask people to dig in, to work with us, to help us change this city and put it in the direction that we want it to go.
How is it, I mean, you've preached this sort of optimism every time I hear you,
Yeah.
and yet is it hard to break through the news cycle and that optimism with today on the interstate was shut down for...
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly difficult when you hear some of the stories and incidents, but I firmly believe that our city has the ability and is heading in the right direction. And I think it's important that we stay the course. I think that as we do this work, there are going to be moments where we take pause and where we are mourning for the loss of course some tragic incidents. But we also have to remember that there are so many young people in our city that are dependent on us. They're dependent on me as mayor and all of the other leaders in our community to continue to make decisions that mean that they will have a brighter future. And so that's what gives me my motivation and my energy to say that despite the incidents that take place, we got to stay the course.
Mayor, how much of a tax hike do you feel like you need to do the things you need to do beyond what the city's doing?
We're going to finalize that number over the next couple of days. As we've looked at the budget, we've seen that some of our federal funds is beginning to expire. The ADC, which is related to the pension, is increasing. And so there are all of these costs that we are working to absorb. And in order to get the results that people are asking for, we know that it's going to take an increase. Our goal is to try to minimize it to the extent that we can. And so by next Tuesday, at the budget presentation, we will be able to give you a specific
Absent an
number.
increase, how much of a shortfall would you have with ARPA expiring and having to put more in the pension?
I mean, it ranges because we're certainly working to reduce and cut, but we were at least $30 million under at a minimum.
And so, in terms of the complement of the police department or other places, the police department is usually budgeted for about 2,500 officers. It's not even close to that. Is that a place to cut in terms of not cutting the number of officers, because you don't have that many, but in terms of what the budgeted amount for MPD is?
Yeah, certainly that'll be a part of the conversation. We want to be realistic around how many officers can we bring into the department in any given year, and so those are discussions that we are having.
Mayor, there's been conflict with you and the police union. Where do you stand with that now?
I mean, we're continuing to have dialogue. My hope is that we can come to a resolution. We're going to keep having discussions. I think they understand the need for field supervision and why we want it. I understand their issues with the process, and so we're going to keep working until we get to a resolution.
If you tell people what they're getting for a tax hike, do you think that makes it easier?
No question. I mean, we've seen cities like Oklahoma City where they have a tax that has been voted on time after time, and they put before the people what they are going to get for the tax increase. And so it's incumbent upon me and our council members to be explicit with the community around what the increase will get us. And those are the things that we're going to do.
And it's been 8 years since we've had a property tax hike?
I think it's more than 8 years.
Okay.
I know it's been a number of years. Next week I'll give you the specific date. But it's been a lot of years since we've had an increase. And all of the costs for products and services have increased. And so we need to get our budget in alignment with the expectations of our residents.
Mayor, are there things in this 107-day period that you were not able to accomplish that you wanted to?
I mean, certainly we want to see crime low. We've seen some reduction, but we want to see less. And so, that is our number one goal. Our number one target is to continue to reduce crime.
You mentioned that 10% goal for crime reduction. How did you arrive at that figure?
Well, I mean, it really was a number that we can see that we are trending towards at a minimum getting that 10%. And so I felt like if we can't, at a minimum, state that as an explicit goal, then we'd be doing ourselves a disservice.
When
And
we're
so-
talking about that 10%, to piggyback on Catherine's question, are we talking about the violent crime rate per 100,000 people? Are we talking about the raw number of homicides? What are we talking
all
about
of
there?
it. All of it.
All categories.
All
violent
categories.
and crime-
I want to see 10% on all of the things. Homicides, you can break them down individually or overall. I want to see at a minimum 10% on all of it.
Influencing that crime, a lot of that is probably influenced by not only, a lot of it's parenting. How does a mayor affect parenting?
Well, I mean, that's why I call for the community to be a part of the change. The mayor, as an individual, doesn't necessarily have that direct influence, but the churches do. The community members do. For every young person or person, period, that's out there doing a crime, there is somebody connected to that person. There's an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, a pastor. There's someone that can have an influence on their lives. We have to get to the people before they decide to take on the crime. Certainly, we want to hold anybody accountable that's creating chaos and committing crimes in our community. But where we really see the reduction is when we can prevent them from committing the crime in the first place. And so we want to get to the minds of the young people in our community.
What entity is bringing $50 million to the city in a challenge grant? Can you name that entity?
Blue Meridian.
Okay.
Yeah, Blue Meridian has been working in this community for a while. It's something that I think they had been working to get traction on, and I'm owning it. I want our community to step up, and I think it's important for us to commit to raising the resources to elevate our city.
Right
That
now,
money
you
will be
have
used for
a-
what? That money specifically, that money will be used for what?
It's a host of different things. It's holistic public safety, so it could be education, workforce development, public safety directly through MPD. There's a host of applicable uses, but it hadn't been defined yet.
Right
Mayor,
now, you
you're
have
trying
an
to-
interim chief. I've seen her with you every step of the way,
Yeah.
everywhere you've gone. Is that part of your plan for her becoming a permanent chief?
When we went to the council and we said that we would accept the interim title, we said we're just gonna get to work, and we're just working. It's not an effort to get a permanent title. It's just we're going to do the work for the city, and when we get to that point with council, we'll go back to them and we'll have those discussions.
Mayor, you're clearly trying to win the hearts and minds of the citizens of Memphis to create the culture that you want to have to create these changes. How do you maintain that? Like, how do you win the hearts and minds? Because there obviously is an inspirational aspect to your job, but of course everybody here is asking you about the numbers and the budgets and stuff, but how do you kind of balance that?
I mean, I think it's really important that we see this work. I see this work as a mission. Like, I'm not in this because I want to be a lifelong politician. I've said it over and over. I really don't. I want to elevate Memphis, and that motivation for me comes from within, and I believe that it's going to take every single person to overcome our challenges. And I think that it's part of my job to include them in the process, to make sure that they see themselves and how they can fit in creating the future that we want to see. And so making sure that we make that very clear is an important part of this role.
Trying to speak it into existence to a certain degree?
Absolutely. I believe in self-fulfilling prophecies. If we say we are bad, we are bad. If we continue to say we are great and reiterate it, we will achieve that greatness.
I came in on the tail end. I came in kind of late, but the question, I don't know if it was actually ready today. 15-year-old shot a kid outside of the community center. Last week here in Westwood, we mentioned the officer. We opened up talking about the officer. Crime is down. But for those who don't feel that, who don't see that, given what we saw today, what we saw last week in this very area, what do you say to that?
Well, first, my heart goes out to those two young people. I just got the news right before we started the meeting today. Certainly, heart continues to go out for Officer McKinney and the others that were lost in that tragic incident. In terms of what we do about it, I mean, as a community, we have to ensure that we are continuing to work hard to get different results. If people, I talked about some of the data points around how the numbers overall are trending down. They're headed in the right direction, but that doesn't matter if people don't feel it. And so we have to keep working. We can't be dispirited by the incidents and tragedies that we see. We certainly continue to support those families and those that are feeling that pain, but we keep working to try to prevent the next one from taking place.
My final question is, you talked about other cities, which you've met with other mayors, Operation Scarlet in Charlotte. What, if you could summarize what you've learned the most talking to other cities and modeling some of the things you're doing here in this city, what would you say?
I would say the big thing that I learned is that we are on the right track. Everything that they talked about are things that we are doing at some level. They may have formalized their process in different ways, but the things that we are doing will show results. We have to stay the course. All right, good.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.